Hey everybody, Peter Zeihan here, come to you from Colorado. Great news. Our sponsorship of MedShare has done very well, and we've had a number of you call in with matching donations. So our original match was for $40,000 for the month of November, dollar for whatever anyone sends in. So even if it's just a buck or two, it makes a big difference. But we've now had sponsors come in to increase that 40,000 to 100,000. And to give you an idea of specifically what this sort of donation is going to go for, in modern warfare, explosions are, part of the process. So there have been a huge number of cranial and spinal injuries in Ukraine, and people might be able to get away from the front and survive, but then they're not going to be able to function unless they can get additional medical assistance. And so other donors have provided MedShare with implants and spinal surgery kits that are worth $20 million on the open market that were just given to them for free. And the question is, how do we get this to Ukraine where it can do the good? And that's where our campaign comes in. So again, the first $100,000 is matched. No donation is too small. Thank you for everyone who has buzzed in so far. Over 2,000 of you have already donated. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's really humbling to be part of this process, and I look forward to seeing what the final number is at the end of the month. But until then, back to our regularly scheduled program. Hey everybody, Peter Zeihan here, coming to you from Colorado. It is the 16th of November, and yesterday in San Francisco at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, Chairman Xi Jinping and U.S. President Joe Biden finally had that long-awaited summit. It's the first time that a real leader has met with Xi in something like 4 years. And it was really our first read on how Xi personally is doing, whether he's lost his mind to senility or is just so drowned in his own propaganda that he can't function. The result was, by many measures, fairly surprising. Xi was basically all friendly, talking about how he didn't want competition. He wanted to be a friend of the United States. He didn't want to challenge the United States. I mean, it was basically peace, love, and recycle. He sounded like a teenage camp counselor. Three theories that come from this, which are going to shake out real quick into the fact. Number one, he really has lost his mind. In which case, we're going to see increasing breakdowns in decision-making across the Chinese system as he basically goes bipolar, which could be entertaining but a little bit dangerous. The other two scenarios had to do with the cult of personnel that is formed. Xi has destroyed all challengers to the throne. There's no local leaders or regional leaders that have snuff anymore. He's gone through the bureaucracy in academia and business, and he's purged the bureaucracy as well. So part of the problem the Chinese have been having of late is that no one will bring him news, so he really is broadly unaware of what's going on in his own country and across the world. And so when he is thrust into something like the APEC summit, things get a little weird. All of his staff apparently focused on the location of the table settings and the types of silverware and what flowers would be in the hotel. And, of course, they didn't want to see any protesters. But it was all on the atmospherics and the design as opposed to the substance. There was very little prep on the Chinese side, as far as we've been able to tell, for what the actual topics of the day happen to be. And, there's a few things going on right now. So that kind of puts us into one of two categories. Number one, Xi, exposed to the world via San Francisco for the first time in years, is like, oh my God, what have I done? My country's in demographic collapse. Our trade situation is dangerous. We are looking at national dissolution over the next decade unless something just dramatically changes. And every theoretical solution involves the United States in some way. We have to have their market. We have to have the security their Navy grants our maritime shipment. We have to have access to their finance markets. U.S., 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 U.S. It has to be the U.S. And if he's come to that realization, then a complete 180 from what we've seen over the last 5 years makes a lot of sense. The question is whether the cult can now push that down into the bureaucracy in the Chinese system when there are very few competent people left in that system. We will know the answer to that in a matter of weeks, because either the Chinese will stop being a bag of dicks like they have been for the last 5 years, or things will change. It's really pretty binary. The second issue is that it's all lies, that this is all just part of Xi's internal play in order to lull the Americans into a false sense of security. Considering that the Biden administration has taken many more anti-China actions than the Trump administration has, unlike the Trump administration, codified them into law so they'll outlast him, that is a bit of a stretch to think that the Chinese could be that stupid. But considering the Chinese inability to function in most international forums of late and the destruction of the information transfer system within the Chinese system by Xi, it's entirely possible that they are really that dumb. And we will know the answer to that real soon, too. So one way or another, here we come. Hey everybody, Peter Zeihan here, coming to you from Chicago. I'm recording this on the 14th of November. You'll see it tomorrow on the 15th. The news today is that the APEC Forum, that's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, it's a forum that was set up decades ago to help with economic integration among the Asia-Pacific region, is having their annual Heads of State Summit in San Francisco, and everyone will be there. But as important that is, and, whatever, the real issue is that there's going to be a bilateral standalone meeting between China's chairman, Xi Jinping, and America's President, Joe Biden. Now, there are any number of reasons why it would be a good idea to have a summit right now. There's big issues going on in trade and security. There's the Ukraine war. There's Gaza. There's energy. There's green transition. It goes on and on and on and on and on. I'd be very surprised if they actually meaningfully discuss any of those issues, because there's a much more base problem, and that is China. China's cult of personality that has gathered around Xi Jinping has now become so strict that information is not being exchanged in the country. And Xi has basically shot the messenger so many times that he has very little idea of what's going on in his own country or the wider world, whether that's power outages or remember that spy balloon. We now know that Xi wasn't even aware of it until after the entire issue was over. So we, the United States, has tried on multiple occasions to meet with some of the uppity-ups high up within the Chinese bureaucracy and state authority systems, and have discovered that really no one has reliable access to the chairman at all. So, for example, Secretary of State Blinken and Secretary of Defense Austin have both been to China to speak with their counterparts, only to discover that their foreign minister and their defense minister don't actually have access to the chairman. It hadn't for some time, and by the way, they both got fired shortly thereafter. So we're sending in the only gun that's bigger than SecDef and SecState, and that is the president himself. So Xi and Biden will be meeting the day you see this, the 15th, and I'm not expecting meaningful policy addressings. We're just trying to find out if the guy has lost his mind at this point. Once you turn 60, things start to go a little sideways, and Xi is now 70. And since no one, except for, say, Vladimir Putin, has had meaningful access to Xi in years, this will be the first chance for the United States to judge whether the guy on the other side of the table still has his faculties about him. And luckily, the person who's going to be judging whether or not the Chinese leader has failed because of age is Joe Biden. So, he knows what to look for.